David shifts from describing the blessedness of forgiveness to the misery of concealing sin. These verses reveal what happened before he confessed his sin. The contrast proves striking. When I kept silence, my bones waxed old through my roaring all the day long. Psalm 32, verse 3. The phrase kept silence means David at first refused to confess his sin. He maintained outward composure while inward turmoil raged. The word bones represents his entire physical frame. Waxed old describes decay and deterioration. His body broke down under the burden of hidden guilt. The phrase, "my roaring all the day long," pictures continuous groaning. David cried inside while keeping silent. The groaning never stopped. Day and night he suffered. This roaring was not confession, but anguish. He cried out in pain, but not in repentance. The silence toward God continued, even as his body screamed in torment. For day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. My moisture is turned into the drought of summer. Selah. Psalm 32:4. God's hand pressed down on David. The word heavy means weighty or burdensome. God applied pressure to bring David to confession. This was divine discipline. God loved David too much to let him continue in unconfessed sin. The phrase, "my moisture is turned into the drought of summer," pictures complete depletion. In Palestine, summer brings intense heat and little rain. Everything dries up. Brooks cease flowing and vegetation withers. David's vitality disappeared like water in summer drought. His strength evaporated and his energy vanished. The word Selah calls for a pause. The reader should stop and reflect on David's condition. King Saul provides a contrasting illustration. When confronted by Samuel about disobedience, Saul made excuses. And Samuel said, "Hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams." 1 Samuel 15:22. Saul never confessed his sin. He never experienced the crushing burden of his sin that David describes. Saul defended himself instead of confessing. God's hand lifted from Saul, but not in mercy. God removed his presence. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. 1 Samuel 16:14. Jonah fled from God's command to preach in Nineveh, but God pursued him. Now, the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah 1:17. Inside the fish, Jonah prayed, "When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came in unto thee, into thine holy temple." Jonah 2:7. The pressure of God's discipline brought Jonah to prayer. His confinement encouraged his confession. God's hand accomplished its purpose. David's suffering brought repentance. God's discipline pushed him toward remorse. The next verses will reveal his confession and restoration. But these verses establish an important truth. Unconfessed sin destroys the believer from within, and God will not ignore it. His hand grows heavy until the silence breaks.